So my father spent about 28 years in the police force, and towards the end of his career he was diagnosed with PTSD.
This happened to my friend who was involved in a car accident, and they got PTSD from that.
My experience with PTSD stems back to my early 20s, when I experienced an extreme form of violence. That trauma was so overwhelming that it was beyond my comprehension.
PTSD is actually the second most common mental health condition in Australia, second to depression. So over 4% of Australians in any given year will experience PTSD.
So what I did with the trauma and what I did with the episode is I put it in a box, and I put the box over there, and I buried it so deep that I thought I would never have to deal with the trauma again.
PTSD impacts on all parts of a person's life. Because of the suffering that a lot of the memories generate for the person, their avoidance of things that remind them of the trauma, the concentration and attention problems, the irritability problems, all of those things seep into their relationships with loved ones, their relationship with people at work, and their ability to perform at work.
I experienced what I now know to be classic symptoms of PTSD, especially in the form of flashbacks. It wasn't so much about re-experiencing the trauma itself, but it was about seeing images of me, this vulnerable, fragile, helpless 20-year-old. And I used to see her everywhere. And these images became very pervasive, and not only pervasive, but they also meant that I couldn't sleep. I became incredibly anxious and overwhelmed by guilt.
There was a freak accident. Our friend had PTSD. They had a few attempts on their life, and eventually they had a successful attempt. So they died by suicide.
So many other people have lost someone close to them to PTSD, and it's only after we've lost them that we realise, oh, I need to do something about this. And that's what I want everyone to realise, is they're suffering with PTSD now, and they need support now, before it's too late.
PTSD was something I was aware of. It was something that I was aware of in the context of war veterans, and never really thought about it much beyond that.
Really important message as part of this PTSD Awareness Day is that PTSD can be caused by all kinds of traumas across the community.
It can happen to anyone, and that's why we need to be aware of PTSD and why it's such an invisible disease.
I think it's also important on PTSD Day to highlight the supports and the assistance that are available, not just for people who have PTSD, but for family and friends who know someone who might have PTSD, and what they can do to support that person.
Important message is recovery is definitely possible. The treatments we have available, the psychological therapies, are very effective, and the vast majority of people who receive these therapies do very well and recover.
What I needed was a safe space. I needed support to be able to really excavate and find the depth of the trauma, because if I didn't do that, I wasn't going to be able to recover.
Phoenix Australia, we need ongoing support to be able to achieve our mission, which is to improve the lives of people impacted by trauma across Australia.